Hey there, Realm Walkers! Welcome back to another developer update. We've got a lot to cover today, so hold on to your breeches and let's jump right into what we've been up to for the last couple of weeks.
So many of you have probably already seen that we announced our early access release date, February 22nd, 2024. This is a little bit later than we had hoped, so we wanted to take the time in this video to give some details as to why we're shifting, what we're doing with the extra time, and what early access means to us here at Inflection. So firstly, I know we've done this a few times, and trust me, we don't like announcing delays. It's never an easy decision to make, and it does disappoint a lot of people. But we think it's very important for us to fulfill our vision with Nightingale, as well as delivering on some expectations that the community has. Our commitment to quality is very important to us, which is why we're taking the extra time to make things ready for our early access launch. Early access means different things to different studios. For us, it's always been about establishing a solid foundation for player experience, one that we could then build upon with the community. And if you've been part of our testing community, you will have seen that the game has changed over the last year. And all of this is due to the numerous improvements we've made thanks to your feedback. But there are still some rough edges, so this extra time is going to help us in smoothing some of these out, specifically bugs and some quality of life refinements. And even though February will still be an early access launch, we only get one public launch. So that first impression is super important to us. We know delays are frustrating, but this new date means that our team can finish their work, take the holidays to recover, and then come back full force to support early access launch and continue development. So if you saw the release date announcement as it happened, then you know that we went to Gamescom this year. I'll let Steph talk a little bit more about it since she was there on the floor.
Gamescom was our first ever in-person community event, and also the first time we've ever had a public booth at a conference. Hundreds of people came by to take photos with our life-size portal, enter in for some Intel hardware, and as well as take photos with our cosplayers of both Puck and the Lady in Red, who we now call the Scarlet Woman. The portal was made by a team over in Germany, and they did a fantastic job of adapting it to be this showstopper for the floor. And then our cosplayers, Clem and Lara, were a delight to work with, and they also did a great job of making their various costumes. I mean, just look at some of these details. We'll make sure to plug some of their social medias in our description as well, so you can look at not only these cosplays, but the other work that they do as well. And then, behind closed doors, some of our staff members sat down with content creators and media and gave them a live demo of the game. If you haven't seen some of these impressions online already, we'll plug a couple of them in our description for you. So while Gamescom was a lot of work from various different teams to prepare for and also execute during the actual show, it was an absolute delight to meet so many of you and in person and share the enthusiasm for the game with you. And that Gamescom week was busy for other reasons as well.
From August 25th to September 5th, we had another closed playtest. Over 7,000 Realm Walkers explored the Fey Wilds, and the most dedicated Realm Walker clocked in at 194 hours played. As always, the playtest gave us a lot of things to look at and to focus on. So thank you so much to all of you that jumped into the realms and gave us your feedback. We've been happy to hear that many design updates and tweaks we did for this playtest have resonated with players. And our visuals, art style, music, sound design continue to get high praise. As for new callouts for this specific playtest, players got to test a new onboarding flow. And overall, it seems to have reduced friction substantially and helped players get through that early game experience. We saw higher levels of completion and lots of positive feedback, which the team loves to see. When it comes to accessibility features, we were able to introduce two highly requested ones. The first allows players to hold the action button in order to continuously do an action. For example, holding down your mouse button to continuously chop a tree instead of clicking multiple times. The second is you can now hold down a button so that you could vacuum items instead of individually going around and picking them up. These two features should help people with mobility issues, but is also a great quality of life option to have anyways. Another thing players got to check out was our greatly expanded character creator. While it's still very much a work in progress, here's a sneak peek of what you can expect. You'll not only be able to change eye colors, but you'll be able to change individual eye colors, also known as heterochromia. You can change your character's age. We're super excited to show off more features as well as the final character creator functionality in the upcoming months. And for those of you that just want to jump into the game and start playing, we will also have some character presets that you'll be able to choose from.
And then there'll be the things that our team are working on in the coming weeks and months. For the last few playtests, we've allowed previous participants to invite friends to check out the co-op features. The number of people that these folks are allowed to invite range from 1 to 5, depending on the playtest round, as well as key availability. Now, this whole process to get a friend in has always been a little bit finicky due to the systems we have in place, but with the last playtest having 10 times the amount of people, we had about 10 times the amount of friends trying to get into this playtest, which meant we had 10 times the amount of issues of previous playtests. So for any of you that were having issues getting your friends into the last playtest that might be watching this, we're auditing our systems to try to figure out what happened there, how to make the process easier, and we also really hope to get your friends in for the next one. And then for the game itself, we still have some unfinished textures, UI, and animations that need to be polished off. And while these won't be 100% done for the next playtest, it is an ongoing process to get them all done in time for the early access launch. For this playtest, we heard loud and clear that our bench and augmentation systems for them needed some refinement to make them more approachable to players. We're looking at the options available to us right now, but the idea is to make them less complex and make your workshop more streamlined going forward. On top of that, we have some balancing things that we need to do for the late game, as well as making our POIs, or points of interest, more rewarding to investigate. Another issue that popped up is that the AMD 580 and 590 cards experienced some launch crashes, which they hadn't had before. Our team was able to investigate this specific crash and the reasons why it was causing issues in these specific cards, and have been able to update the game to resolve it. So anyone who had these cards and couldn't play in the previous playtest, we hope it's resolved for you in the next one. Several players left feedback this time that they were experiencing lower FPS compared to previous playtests, so our team is investigating as to what could be causing it. Optimization is an ongoing process, so it's going to be another while until we can share expected PC performances for various different build types. So while the previous issue of people not being able to load into their profiles because they were too large has been resolved, we did see some new issues where some folks were having issues when they were trying to go to their respite round. This error was partially resolved on the server side, halfway through the test or so, and then the remaining errors are being investigated to figure out what was causing them, and hopefully we can have them resolved before the next playtest. Now, this isn't all of the feedback and things that we're working on in the coming months, but it's kind of hard to nuance some of these things without everyone having played the game, and also for the sake of brevity. But we will make sure to keep everybody updated as we continue to add things to the game.
On a side note, you may have noticed that some community members have not abided by the playtest NDA. So we wanted to give a bit of context when it comes to this topic. Ahead of each playtest, we communicate to players that they might run into technical issues or some systems in the game that aren't quite finished. Quite often, we don't share the exact details or discuss any behind the scenes things that we're working on or planning on changing down the pipeline. We do this because we want to see what players think about the current state of Nightingale without our influence. This is the best way to see whether our assumptions about different gameplay features or mechanics ties with what players are thinking. Most of the times, we're already aligned, and behind the scenes, we're already working on some of the feedback that we're receiving. But we recognize that sometimes it could be frustrating when players don't know this, what is going to be intended for early access launch, or what is still in progress. So while we do ask our playtesters not to share their experience, good or bad, because it's not a final product, it does happen occasionally. But we do hope that this provides some context behind some of those comments that you might see.
And that's it for this developer update. Now, we might have mentioned another playtest a few times in this video. We don't have the exact details for that hashed out right now at time of recording, so we recommend that you follow our various social channels, but especially Discord, to keep up to date on that if you're interested. We look forward to sharing more updates with you in the coming months, but for now, we say farewell and see you next time.